transported to a strange planet by a force from beyond the universe, the mightiest superheroes and supervillains of all have been gathered to fight the ultimate war. The evil forces attacked first, but were defeated, several of their number falling captive. Thus, it seemed that the heroes, under the leadership of Captain America, were invincible. However, internal strife divided them, and when the villains mounted a second, sudden, surprise attack, the heroes were caught off guard and in disarray. And now, the victory belongs to the forces of doom. Stan Lee presents Marvel Superheroes Secret War Situation Hopeless. Molecule Man says, "There. So much for the superheroes' headquarters." And as the victors explore the ruins, Dr. Octopus says, "I can't believe we let them slip through our fingers. How could they have escaped?" Dr. Doom says, "With the destruction of their fortress complete, their moments are numbered, Dr. Octopus. We shall hunt them down like dogs." Volcano says, "Molecule Man, it was unbelievable how you obliterated this entire structure with just a wave of your hand." Molecule Man says, "Oh, it's easy when you control all molecules. And you can call me Owen if you want, Volcano." Volcano says, "Owen, what a darling name." Titania says, "Any sign of them, Octopus?" Dr. Octopus says, "Not yet. These glasses I found seem to automatically detect and focus on moving objects. Sooner or later. Wait. There. About 5 miles that way. I see them regrouping. They look to be in bad shape. Easy to finish off. They're out of range of hand weapons, but perhaps we can salvage a heavy cannon." Titania says, "Bah. Titania needs no weapons except this." Absorbing Man says, "Holy." Titania says, "They will not escape. I will crush them all." Wrecker says, "All right, Wrecking Crew. If she can do it, so can we. Bomb them with, smaller chunks of debris." Absorbing Man says, "Throwing rocks is stupid. Let's go after him just in case Titania missed." Dr. Octopus says, "The Absorbing Man is right. Let's go." Molecule Man says, "That really won't be necessary. I can take care of them for sure." Volcano says, "Really, Owen?" Molecule Man says, "Sure, Volcano. Just watch. See those mountains in the distance? I'll just drop those on him." Meanwhile, as Captain America regroups his battered troops, Hawkeye says, "Hawkeye present." Hulk says, "Hulk here. And I've got Mr. Fantastic, Spider-Man, She-Hulk and Ben Grimm." Iron Man says, "Iron Man present and accounted for. I've got Captain Marvel." Human Torch says, "The Human Torch is here. Hurting, but hanging in there." Hawkeye says, "All accounted for then, except for Thor and the X-Men, who apparently vanished before the battle." Hulk says, "Deserted, you mean?" Captain America says, "We'll worry about that later. For now, let's keep moving and hope Dr. Doom and his allies are too busy celebrating to pursue us." Spider-Man says, "What?" Hulk says, "Easy, Spider-Man. Just relax. You were hit pretty hard." Spider-Man says, But, Hulk, I sense danger. My spider sense warning me, danger above." Hulk says, "What? Danger above? Good grief. Cap, look, I can't put all these people down in time to knock that thing away." But, in one fluid blur of motion, the man called Hawkeye knocks, draws and fires. Hawkeye says, "This explosive arrow isn't powerful enough to splinter something that big. But if I place it perfectly, it'll split it." Iron Man says, "Nice work, Hawk. Now if only my power is enough." Sophisticated microcomputers built into Iron Man's armor guide his aim and set the focus of twin, palm-mounted repulsor beams which strike their target unerringly with thunderous impact. Hawkeye says, "He deflected the fragments just enough. Nice going, Shellhead." Hulk says, "And you didn't even drop Captain Marvel. Not bad." Iron Man says, "I never drop talent like this, my man." Captain America says, "Let's keep moving. Troops, before." Oh no. Suddenly, unbelievably, a mountain range which would dwarf the Andes looms above them. For a second, impossibly, it hangs suspended in the sky, and then it falls. And Titania says, "That did it. They are finished." Thunderbolt says, "Amazing. Nice work." Volcano says, "I think you're wonderful, Owen." Molecule Man says, "It was nothing, really." Dr. Octopus says, "That must have killed them." Dr. Doom says, perhaps. Meanwhile, half a world away, Thor says, the Beyonder, who in his infinite power brought us hence, has offered to each of the victors any prize he may ask. What would you ask, Enchantress? You who are so beautiful, powerful, and immortal, verily a goddess. Enchantress says, I would ask for your love, Thor, because, for millennia, I have desired you. As well you know. For, I stop at nothing to satisfy my selfish desires, and I have often sought to take your love by deceit or force. Thor says, love is not an object to be seized or stolen. It can only be given. Enchantress says, Aye, but we immortals are wont to occupy our endless days with foolish and impossible quests, either to keep from going mad or because we are. Could you ever love me, Thor? Thor says, I know not. Enchantress says, am I not beautiful? Thor says, without, surely. But true beauty is a thing of the spirit. Why is that not your quest, fair one? To overcome petty greed and lust and unfetter the beauty of your godly spirit? Enchantress says, kiss me, Thor. Give me a glimmer of hope, and I will try. Suddenly, Thor says, by Odin's beard, an earthquake, but sudden and quick to pass. Enchantress says, that was not a natural occurrence. Indeed, precious little here is. I have a sense of these things. It could only have been a shockwave from some cataclysmic blow mighty enough to shake this entire world. Thor says then, I must return to my friends. Enchantress says, and I with thee, noble Thor. Thor says, hurry, Enchantress. I fear we have tarried here too long. Enchantress says, it is done. And Molecule Man says, holy cow. Thor, Absorbing Man says, and the Enchantress, I guess they've been off partying. Thor says, what's this? Our fortress laid waste. Absorbing Man says, hey, you see real good, jerk. Titania says, let me have him one-on-one. I want to. Dr. Doom says, silence. Thor says, Doom, where are my comrades? What have you done with them? I want answers. Speak quickly. Dr. Doom says, why, they are dead. We have slain them all, by dropping a mountain range on top of them. Simple. Effective. No. Now, listen well. You are hopelessly outnumbered. Submit and I guarantee you a merciful death. Thor says, are you mad, Doom? Do you truly believe that any odds might deter Thor from striving till the last breath? Dr. Doom says, of course not. However, common courtesy demands that I make the offer. It is 13-1 against you. Thor says, perhaps. Aye. So be it. Absorbing Man says, enough talk. Let's ace the sucker. Pile Driver says, get him. Titania says, stupid. You shouldn't have thrown away that club. You're going to miss it. It might have given you a chance against me. Titania. Titania. The woman who killed Thor with her bare hands. That's what they'll call me. Thor says, mayhap, woman, when icicles ornament searches fiery realm. Dr. Octopus says, now we got him. Pull him down. Absorbing Man says, just make sure you bozos hold him for a few seconds while I absorb the properties of this junk. Then I'll bash his head in for YA. Dr. Octopus says, hey, he blocked it. Can't you idiots do anything, right? Pile Driver says, we're trying. But his too strong. Absorbing Man says, look out. Thor says, away, varlets. Thy touch offends me. At the command of the god of thunder, let the fury of the sky smite mine enemies. Pile Driver says, look out. Dr. Doom says, when I rebuilt Ultron, I added a new weapon to his invulnerable robot body, Thor. An energy beam which cancels the forces bonding subatomic particles together, a disintegrator, if you will. Only under combat conditions can one truly evaluate the effectiveness of one's newly designed weapons. Do you not agree, Thundergod? I believe the test can be called a success. Dr. Octopus says, so it would appear. Nothing left but his helmet and scraps of his cape. That means we've won. Dr. Doom says, the X-Men are not yet accounted for. Dr. Octopus, nor is Magneto, and Galactus remains a possible problem. We shall return to Doombase and plan our next strike. But first, there's yet one other matter to attend here and now. One of you tried to kill me. Indeed, he almost succeeded. And for that transgression, he must pay. Kang says, Doom, wait. The circumstances were. Dr. Doom says, Ultron. Slay Kang. Kang says, Doom, listen to me. You'll need me later, you fool. Don't. Dr. Doom says, I trust that the lesson is not lost upon the rest of you. Now, to Doombase. At that moment, many hundreds of miles distant, a strange aircraft soars above the alien landscape. It is piloted psionically by Professor Charles Xavier, founder of the band of mutants known as the X-Men. Professor X says, I believe that I neglected to compliment you, Storm, on the superb job you did helping me navigate through the tempest. Storm says, it was too powerful for me to quell entirely, but moderating the winds in our immediate vicinity was not difficult, Professor. The silence slams shut again as Storm's words fade, each X-Man lost in his own reverie, especially Peter Rasputin, codenamed Colossus. Colossus says, Kitty, I miss you so much. I fear you are in awful danger now, as we surely are here in this godforsaken world, so far from home, and you. I think there is no returning from this place. All the dreams I hardly dared to dream about us are finished. If only I could see you one more time. Only a few feet away. The woman known only as Rogue also broods. Rogue says, not too long ago, I probably would have been fighting on Doom's side. Now I'm with the X-Men, but if push comes to shove, if we're losing, will I stay with the X-Men? I wonder. I don't want to die. Nightcrawler says, why do you keep popping your claws, Wolverine? Surely, you aren't looking forward to the inevitable battle? Wolverine says, Nightcrawler, I go through life holding back, keeping the animal inside in check, just barely. But this is war. Maybe the last war, for all the marbles in the universe. So this time, I ain't taking prisoners, no matter what Charlie thinks. If Professor Charles Xavier overhears, he makes no sign. His furrowed brow betrays greater concentration than necessary simply to guide the ship, as he ponders a certain incident, only hours ago, involving Spider-Man and is deeply, deeply troubled. Storm says, there. That must be Magneto's fortress ahead. Cyclops. Cyclops says, I don't know whether to be relieved or worried. Magneto's power on our side could be a deciding factor in this war. On the other hand, if he's not in the mood for an alliance, we could be in for the fight of our lives. Meanwhile, inside the awesome structure, the mutant master of magnetism focuses his staggering power into a concentrated field of energy potent enough to raise a small city. Straining, he subtly manipulates the field, pulling metallic particles from the very air, shaping them, compressing them, fusing them atom by atom, until Magneto says, aha, here you are, Janet. I trust this will suffice. Wasp says, why, thank you. Goodness, you really discover the things you take for granted when Bergdorf Goodman's is a billion zillion miles away. And I wish this place had plumbing. What sort of beings would build a place with no powder rooms? Magneto says, they must have been vaguely humanoid, judging from the furnishings and these delicious alien fruit nectars which, apparently, they consumed. Would you like some wine? Wolverine says, nah. Got any cold beer, Maggie? Magneto says, the X-Men. Professor X says, good morning, Magnus. I have come to discuss joining forces. I believe it may be mutually advantageous to forget our various differences and work together. As a force independent of that under Captain America's command, there's much good we might do. Magneto says, how interesting. Janet, perhaps you know her better as the Wasp, leader of the Avengers. Janet and I have been discussing precisely that. Slay your enemies, and all you desire shall be yours. That is what the Beyonder told us when he placed us here. After seeing his power demonstrated, I believe him. Therefore, we must take an aggressive role. Unlike Captain America and his allies, we must not fight a defensive battle. We must slay Dr. Doom and his lackeys. And if Captain America's company does not see the wisdom of our course, if they do not join with us, or Weiss, if they oppose us, we must slay them as well. Don't you see? Should Doom triumph, he would have the Beyonder fulfill his selfish desires. But we, by the Beyonder's grace, would create a golden age on Earth and throughout the universe. An age in which men and mutants live together in peace. We must fight to the death and win. Janet agrees with me. Don't you, my dear? Wasp says, you know, Mag, you're a pompous, overbearing jerk. Cute, though. Did you really think I'd ever consider going along with your sick plans? I've just been playing along to find out what you're up to. And now that I know you really are the most evil scum since Hitler, I'm going to stop you. Magneto says, what? You dare? Wasp says, yep. Naya. Can't hit me. Magneto says, shrinking to Wasp's size won't save you. Wasp says, oh, but that's not all I can do. Wasps also have stings. In my case, a bioelectric one. You're a great kisser, Magneto. But like a lot of men, you presume that once you romance a woman, her mind turns to mush, and then you own her. Wrong. Cyclops says, stop her. If she injures him. Wolverine says, we may need Magneto, lady. Now, settle down, or... Wasp says, no. If you're on his side, then you're not very nice, and I'm not letting you near me. Just be grateful I'm not like Magneto. If I were using even half-power stings, you'd be splattered, not stunned. So there. I'd better get out of here. One of them could get lucky and somehow zap me, and I've got to warn Cap and the others about what rats they are. Besides, that planet quake we felt a while ago got me worried. I can't shake the feeling that it meant something terrible happened. I've got to get back. Cyclops says, she caught us flat-footed. Clobbered us. Storm says, we deserved it. We reacted slowly. No teamwork. Wolverine says, first Spider-Man trashes us, now the Wasp. I've had it with getting dumped on my butt. Magneto says, she won't get far. Taking evasive action won't save her. That little fool. I'll crush that vehicle, and her with it. Meanwhile, Wasp says, how do you steer this thing? It'd take 6 hands to work these controls. I'd get out and walk if I could figure how to stop. Goodness. Professor X says, Magnus, no. I cannot allow you to do this. Magneto says, allow me? You presume much, Xavier. Professor X says, listen to me. I could have prevented her escape with a simple telepathic command, but I chose not to. A few hours ago, I succumbed to temptation and psionically prevented Spider-Man from delaying our journey here. That was a crime, an act I shall long regret. In that moment of weakness, I was no better than Doom, or Hitler, or anyone else who ever used power to usurp another's freedom. If we are to be allies, Magneto, we must first agree that whatever noble ends we seek do not justify evil means. Meanwhile, far away, where newly planted mountain range rises from a planet's crust, while dust still settles on the surface, deep beneath billions of tons of stone, Iron Man says, how about a little light? Captain Marvel says, you got it. Iron Man says, there must be 2 miles of rock above us. How can even you hold all that up, Hulk? Hulk says, I'm just bracing it. I've got leverage. Still, I don't know how long, seconds, a minute, maybe. Hawkeye says, we couldn't dig out of here in a month. We're as good as. Captain America says, no. We're still alive. There's a way. Help me revive Reed. Hulk says, he's coming around. The Thing says, Reed, listen, we're in trouble. They drop a whole mountain on us, man. Iron Man and Hulk wedged out of space as it landed, keeping us from being squashed. There ain't enough air for the torch to flame on and burn his way out, and it's probably too far anyway. No one here has power enough to cut through or dig out. Hulk says, accept me, but if I let go, the rock above will fall, smashing us all, before I could start digging. Mr. Fantastic says, Iron Man, let me have a look at your armor. If it operates as I suspect it does, I just might have an idea. You must have a toolkit. I'll need it. And, Hawkeye, if you have any trick arrows with microelectronic components. Good. Spider-Man, your web-shooting devices must have circuitized relays. I'll need them too. Spider-Man says, my web shooters. Mr. Fantastic says, there's no time to argue. Spider-Man says, oh, all right. I guess. Yeah, the air's running out. Hulk's getting exhausted. Why not? Iron Man says, can we help? Mr. Fantastic says, no. Iron Man, your armor is more technologically advanced than I'd ever dreamed. Working with it is easier than I dared hope. Every system is already cross-linked. A cinch to modify. I knew Tony Stark was brilliant. But, Hulk says, shut up, Richards. I'm tired of hearing about how brilliant you are. And now, how brilliant Stark is. Do you hear me? The dumb brute who's buying you this time is fed up with that garbage. Mr. Fantastic says, I see. Well, that's exactly the kind of self-pitying mewling we expect from you, Hulk, or Dr. Banner, or whoever you are. But you're correct. You are a brute, so keep using your muscle. That's all you're good for. Hulk says, why you? You arrogant clown. You know I'm losing my intellect, don't you? And you think I'm just a dumb ox again already, don't you? Well, maybe I am, but you better pray your stupid plan fails, because if we get out of here, I'm going to rip you apart. Mr. Fantastic says, Captain Marvel. Johnny, I've adapted Iron Man's energy input circuits so that you can feed your energy directly into his power pods using these makeshift transfer units. Concentrate. Johnny, channel your maximum Nova Flame heat through your hand into the unit. Captain, give him the full spectrum of electromagnetic radiation. Iron Man says, hey, I can feel their power pouring in, add into mine. It's unbelievable. Mr. Fantastic says, I hear something, a tapping noise. It's coming from that direction. Full force repulses. Iron Man, that way, now. And, so, Iron Man says, I never dreamed how powerful this armor is. With enough energy, I can do anything, anything. Hulk says, you knew I was losing it. You deliberately made me angry because you knew the madder I get, the stronger I get. Mr. Fantastic says, Hulk, Dr. Banner, I'm sorry about what I said down there. I was only. Hulk says, yes, I know, Richards. I finally figured it out. I'm not that stupid. Thor says, ho, Captain America, a welcome sight thou art. Captain America says, Thor, I thought that tapping sound we heard might be you trying to dig us out. Thor says, my mightiest blows. Tapping. You were buried deep, indeed. In battle with Doom's forces, I learned of your plight. I used a flash of lightning to blind them while I escaped to come to your aid. Unneeded, would seem. Captain America says, we thought maybe the Enchantress had somehow spirited you away. Thor says, 'tis a tale long in the telling. Captain America says, later, then. Captain Marvel, we need. Captain Marvel says, food, shelter, medical supplies. Okay. The Speed of Light Scouting Service is on the case. Cap. Split seconds later. Captain Marvel says, nothing this direction. There's what's left of our old HQ. Well, forget that. I wonder where it came from. Whose it was before the Beyonder transported it here. And there's Galactus, still keeping some mysterious vigil atop that peak. It's been like that almost since we arrived here. I definitely don't want to disturb that guy. Hey, a village. So, the Beyonder brought some non-combatants along for the ride, too. It figures. Obviously, the Big B spared no effort to provide all the necessary accoutrements for this little secret war. And what's a war without innocent victims? I can't get over how abruptly and dramatically the terrain changes every few hundred miles on this crazy patchwork planet. Wonder if there's anything past this weirdness. Whoops. Doom's base. I'm not likely to find help there. Better about face before I'm detected. There's that village again. It has one teensy little problem. Still, it would seem to be our best bet. Hours later. Spider-Man says, right under Galactus's nose. Is she kidding? Captain Marvel says, I told you that. This is the best I could do. Soon. Hulk says, these people don't look too happy to see us. Captain America says, who can blame them for being afraid? Hulk says, can't they see we need help? I'll make him help us. Captain America says, no, Hulk. That's not our way. Besides, I think that woman is arguing on our behalf. Human Torch says, she won. Hulk says, oh, it's a trap. Spider-Man says, nah. My spider sense would be tingling a blue streak. They really mean to help us, so far. Mr. Fantastic says, interesting. This girl seems to be the village healer. This must be some kind of ritualistic laying on of hands. I guess it can't hurt. Human Torch says, height? Hey, it feels terrific, guys. My ribs and arm feel better already. Really? Yeah, same to you, gorgeous. Wow, I think I'm in love. Baby, I'll tumble for YA. Iron Man says, Torch, you got no class, man. The Thing says, I don't know about this place, Reed. I mean, we're right in plain sight of Galactus. Mr. Fantastic says, Ben, believe me, If he cared about us, it wouldn't matter where we were hidden. But he doesn't, so right here is just as safe as anywhere else. The Thing says, okay, you're the boss. But, hey, Mr. Fantastic says, Ben. The Thing says, I'm the Thing again. Son of a... What in the blue blazes is wrong with me? On Earth, I'm always a lovable lump of orange rocks. Hey, all of a sudden, I got human again for no reason at the worst possible time. And now I'm a monster again. Why, big brain? Why? Mr. Fantastic says, I'm not sure, Ben. But I have a strong suspicion. And it's not good news. I'll give it some thought. The Thing says, you do that, Stretcho. I'm going to see if these guys got a cut big enough for me. And hit the sack. If these little wimps don't panic and run off at the sight of my beautiful bud. Mr. Fantastic says, at last, I truly understand just how lonely you feel, Ben. Trapped inside that buddy. Now I'm trapped, too, billions of light years away from Sue, fighting what may be the last fight. It must be worse for her, about to give birth to our second child, not knowing when, or if I'll be back. What? He moved. Galactus moved. Oh, no. No.